gentlemen, welcome to What You Say Anime. I am your host, Peter. On today's episode, we will be reviewing the wrapped-up spring season and going over major titles like Dungeon Meshi, Kaiju No. 8, and me shitting on Jobless towards the end, though. As always, timestamps will be listed in the description below if you'd like to jump around. Since these shows are wrapped up, we will be talking spoilers, so here is your spoiler warning. Joining me today is my seasonal review partner in crime. We got Cosette. Cosette, how are you doing, and what are your overall thoughts on the spring season that was?
Yeah, good. I'm excited because I'm going to Anime Expo tomorrow. So
Yay!
I'm so psyched for that. For this season, it was a big season actually. I feel like I had a really hard time catching up weekly for most shows. Because I only dropped 2 shows, I think. Technically 3, but I dropped one right at the beginning, so I don't think that counts. But it was a very overwhelming season, but it was a good season regardless. I have a lot of sevens though, so it wasn't like as amazing as winter and fall previously. But it was a fair season, and I really enjoyed it.
I think I would agree. I think this season for me personally had a lot of my favorites, so I have probably higher rankings for a lot of shows than most people, but outside of like my personal favorites, I think I'm in the same boat as you. A lot of sevens, a lot of eights, in that range. There's a few that stuck out to me more than the others, but I would say, especially comparing this to last year's spring season, which is to me my favorite season of anime ever. With like
Yeah.
that was like Oshinoko, Heavenly Delusion, Hell's Paradise. I think there's some other like really good shows in there too. So
Skip and Loafer.
skipping Loafer, like there was so many good shows like last spring. So and also looking ahead at say fall, where fall is going to be so stacked. Um, it's hard to say if this is going to be like a standout season just because I think fall is going to be up there with some of the best. But we had a lot of big name properties for this season as well that we got either we were like really looking forward to, or if they were in Crunchyroll's position, shoving it down our throats. We'll start with one that wasn't shoved down our throats that I think we both thoroughly enjoyed though, and that was Dungeon Meshi or Delicious in Dungeon. We wrapped up the 2 cores that was in a show that had a huge turnaround on terms of like popularity and rankings. I think that the manga fandom was already in effect when this was coming out, but the anime fans took a while to get really situated with this property. I remember I was tracking the score on Mal, and when it was like 3 or 4 episodes in, the show was at like a 7.6, 7.7, and it's finished at 8.6. So you could see how well it was received throughout the community as time went on, and I would agree because I've read what have I read? I've read like 6 volumes or something like that, 5 or 6 volumes. So I kind of knew what to expect, especially with the tone shift going from the first couple episodes with like silly, funny adventure cooking, and then it's sort of getting into a little bit more of the dynamic of, oh no, this is some like real shit. Like Fallon is now a giant chimera. Like this is more than just dungeon food of the week, and I think a lot of people really caught on to that once it started picking up the pace, and it was really nice to see. And what Trigger did was an incredible adaptation. It was announced that we are getting more content as well, a second season, so that looking for that down the line, which I think somebody pointed out to me is like the first time Trigger has like done this, even though I think they announced Panty and Stocking, but I don't know what that I don't know if it's like a new project or like a sequel. So like Trigger normally doesn't do this, so it's really cool to see that they're going to be finishing the entire project. Cosette, what are your thoughts on Dungeon Meshi?
Well, it's got 3 of my favorite things. They all start with an F: fantasy, food, and friends, and found family. Well, I guess that's 4.
Or
Yeah, I guess that's 4. Technically, friends and found family fall in the same thing,
yeah,
but so many people have recommended this manga to me the last few years, and it's because I love food so much, and I love like gourmet cooking and all that jazz, and I love fantasy. So many people have recommended it to me, and I've always had it on my read list, but I've never actually dived into it. And then I saw the anime was coming out, so I was like, oh, I'll just wait. And it, like, first episode in, I was like, I'm in love. It was so fun. It exceeded my expectations, and I was wondering like, how far is this like cooking monster thing gonna go? Like, I mean, it could have just continued doing that, but I think I was really surprised by like the second core, where like the story starts to expand. It got more darker. The world building started to get even more like established. I think it was really well written. I would love to actually dive into the manga to see like what the differences are. But I was just so surprised at how well done it was. I don't think there was ever even like a pause in production. I think between both cores. So I think Trigger did an incredible job. I thought it was just so fun. Even the voice acting was incredible on both sub and dub. I watched both actually this season. That's probably why I couldn't catch up on everything because I was watching sub and dub for Listen Dungeon all the time. But yeah, I was just so pleasantly surprised. I think the food looked incredible. There's probably like one dish that gave me the bit of an ick, but yeah, it was just so much fun, and I can see why manga fans um, loved it so much.
Yeah, you're the gourmet expert of the podcast slash Discord. What was your favorite dish that they made?
Um, Gosh, there were so many, but I think the one that stuck out to me right away was they made like an unagi eel sort of dish,
Yep.
because it just reminded me of Japan so much, and it made me miss Japan, even though I just came back.
Yep.
It just reminds, because I love, even though I'm a gourmet, I'm a foodie, but I love simple food. Like I like things done simply. So just like fish grilled on a fire is totally fine with me. But that dish stuck out to me. But there was just so many I can't think of right now. Just the one that gave me the ick was the bug one,
Oh
because
yeah.
I don't like bugs, and it was just so gross. It
Bugs are
looked great.
icky.
They're just icky. I just thought about the legs, and I know that Senshi did like a great job with it, but like that's the one that sticks out in my head because that's the one that I'm like, I would not eat that. So, um, but yeah, I think from a gourmet cooking perspective, I think they did a really good job of like trying to adapt how to cook like actual Japanese meals into like this dungeon fantasy world. I thought what Senshi did was awesome. He's my favorite character of the whole series for obvious reasons, but I thought the gourmet aspect was so on point. I loved it.
Yeah, mine was actually I really like the ice cream just because I thought it was unique how they created it because I was
Yeah,
the
yeah,
whole time I was thinking like, oh, they're just gonna be making like gourmet meals or food and able to use like ghost remains and like lanterns to create ice cream. I thought that was just like really fun. You mentioned it, the voice acting was incredible. I also watched this sub and dub, just depending on like the mood I was in. If I was more focused, I would watch it subbed. If I was a little bit more distracted, I would watch it dubbed. And I was just like, this is great either way. Like it was so good. Shout out to Pro ZD who did Senshi on the English dub. Absolutely killed it. I loved him, even though in the sub VA was incredible as well. But I'm a big fan of that guy in general, and just seeing him kill it was great. You mentioned Senshi was your favorite. Dungeon Meshi is tough for me because each episode kind of sometimes they like focus on a specific character and it's like, wow,
Mm.
he's really my favorite character. Wow, she's really my favorite character. So there's like the Laos episode in like 4 where he's fighting the armor with the bugs or
Oh yeah, yeah.
whatever. Like, and I was like, oh, I love how like goofy and silly he is. And then we get like more of Marcel's background and she's just like quirky and fun. And the familiar episode where she's like blindfolded and like controlling him, she's like doing her dance. It's like it just makes me laugh, but at the same time the high fantasy is just there. It's just it makes sense with what they're doing along with creating this environment, this atmosphere where it's super fun, but at the same time it's dark. It's torturous at times, it's gruesome at times, it's you feel so bad for like Fallon and what she's going through, and all of this is in like one episode. It's like, damn, Dungeon Meshi really is it, isn't it? And it just encapsulates so many things where I love like the found family dynamic, but they're all kind of like goofy and at some points I would say even though I know that this group is smart and they do things correctly, they're also really dumb. And like I think that's like the beauty of it where like sometimes they just like fall into success and it just works because that's who they are as people. But then sometimes they will like actually like logistically think about how they're going to process this fight or this battle or this creature and they have all this background information. So it's like the dynamic between those two things makes it super fun. And just everything that goes along with Dungeon Meshi is just great. I thought the music was fantastic. I like the first OP better than the second, but like the
Same.
ED for the second one was so good. Like there were so many great things about Dungeon Meshi. You could tell that they put the love and care into this property, and I think it really stood out. Did you have any final thoughts on Dungeon Meshi?
I would say there's one scene I rewatch all the time when I'm like in a mood, and it's the one with Leo singing.
Oh, the with the
It just
mermaids or the
Yeah.
sirens? Yeah.
Yeah, it just cheers me up every time. I have it like favorited on Twitter just because I just laugh at it all the time. It's just so funny. In sub and dub. I just
Mhm.
thought that that was just so funny. I think it's such a well-balanced show where there is comedy and it is goofy, but there's also a lot of action and drama, and it gets dark. And I really like that kind of balance in a show. So I got my sister watching it. She loves it now. She's obsessed. So yeah, I think everybody could pretty much enjoy the show actually.
I agree. I just think you gotta give it some time to cook and let it get going, and then once you do, it's nonstop. It's full power. I'm giving the show a 9 on the premise that once it's all said and done, I will probably give it a 10. I just gotta see how the second half is handled, but I thought this was just so well done, and it's like a super high 9 for me.
Mhm. It's a 10 for me. I don't wait till the second season. I'm giving this one a 10.
I no, I just don't want to. It's my personal
I know.
thing, the Darling and the Franks effect, especially with like longer running shows. I don't want my heart to be crushed by a giant spaceship, and then knowing Trigger, there's a chance that a spaceship shows up, even though there's no spaceships in the manga. It's Trigger. I don't know. So, um, love Dungeon Meshi. Love it, love it, love it. Watch it anywhere you can. Watch it sub, watch it dub. It doesn't matter. You need to consume this content. It's gonna be in people's anime of the year conversations. Um, and if you're not watching it, you're just missing out. So a 9 from me, a 10 from Cosette. Moving on to the next show, I mentioned it earlier about getting it shoved down our throats, and that's Kaiju number 8. Crunchyroll had, if they had $100,000 budget, they spent $99,000 on it advertising Kaiju number 8. It was one thing that was driving me crazy with how much Kaiju number 8 stuff that there was. Like, I get it, I understand, and this is the property that they're going to push, and it makes sense because of how well it sells in Japan. And I thought it was pretty popular when it was airing as well. It's not like, I don't know if it's gonna be like the next like blockbuster shonen over here, but I think it was pretty well received. I've read the first 3 volumes of the manga, and that was enough for me when I personally read it. I think the anime did a better job. I think the comedy, the first and foremost, the comedy landed much harder in the anime. I definitely laughed way more on how the delivery was in this. So I give credit where credit's due. I also think the animation at some points were just like mind blowingly good. Like they killed it. But I gotta say one thing. I don't understand why they can't shade their characters. Like the character shading and how they look and how they are presented is terrible. It is so bad, especially when you see like the kaiju fights. I think like especially episode 11 and 12 where
Mhm.
he's in like full berserk mode, and it's just like this is so well done. This is incredible. And then they pan up to like um Shinomiya, and it's just like she has like, I don't know, it feels like she's like wearing like glue on her face. She's like so white and pasty that I'm
Yeah.
just like, incorporate shading into your character design. I know you have the budget for it. And then I'm not even, you could talk maybe more about the guy in the last scene again, but I saw Twitter explode about how they ruined my boy, like that stuff. But coming into this, I was not super high on Kaiju number 8. Like, I thought this was going to be a 7, and it did better than that for me. What were your thoughts on Kaiju number 8?
Well, I was like you. I read the manga. I forgot how far I went. Maybe like chapter 50 or 40. I read it like 3 years ago, so I barely remember it. But the only reason why I started it is because people said there were some badass female characters. So I was like, okay, I'm down. Cool.
Say less.
I think they did a very good job with the animation. I honestly thought I was gonna watch it because I saw the trailer and I was like, ugh! And but the anime exceeded my expectations. I think for me, like shonen action's a bit of a hit or miss with me. Like I'll either like it or I don't like it. So I think the animation was really well done. The landscape and the scenes were really great. But like you said, and I'm going to expand on this is my vent for today. The character designs were terrible. They were completely unsexy. If you look at the manga, everyone looks sexy. And for some reason, they put all the budget in the kaiju, which is granted, the kaijus looked incredible. Like all the monsters looked incredible. They were disgusting. They were gross. The way that their skin was rippling gave me like goosebumps. It was so gross. But the character designs were terrible. Like you ever compare them? It was just shocking. I remember the day when they released the character designs on Twitter, and every kaiju fan
Yep.
like went ballistic. And I remember this because I was one of them too. I was like, they ruined Mina. They ruined everybody. And then when we got to like the second last episode, we saw Kikaru's father, and I was like, oh my god, what did they do to Daddy?
Yes.
That was terrible. And then of course Narumi, which was like the cherry on top. He looks terrible. He looks terrible. But the memes that came out of it were so funny. But I think honestly, if I didn't read the manga, I feel like I would still rate the anime that I rate it now because I still really enjoyed it. So I think like I kind of thought of that as well. Like if I didn't read the manga, would I still enjoy it? The character designs were like the only thing that like stuck out to me that I was like, ooh, but the animations were awesome. Like the fights, like the way that Hoshina fights is my personal favorite because he's more like close combat with swords. So I really liked it. Like I had no complaints besides the character designs. I think that, like you said, the comedy really nailed it. I think the comedy stuck out more, like you said, in the anime more than the manga. It was just so funny, and Kafka really like shined. And like shout out to 30 plus characters.
Hey.
But hey, but he was awesome. He's such a great MC. And to be quite honest, I can see why Crunchyroll's like putting so much marketing budget in this because we know that other shonen properties are ending soon, like Demon Slayer and stuff. So like this is probably going to be like the next big one, probably.
Yeah.
So I can see why they put so much money in it, but like it was just so annoying to like open Crunchyroll and it's just Kaiju number 8.
Mhm.
But whatever, I still really enjoyed it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
just for reference, the only manga that has outsold Kaiju number 8 since 2020 and forward. So
Mhm.
newer gen properties that have outsold Kaiju number 8. It's one and it's free rent. Like Kaiju
Nice.
number 8 is number 2. So like it's a huge property. It's like it's free rent, Kaiju, and then I think Oshinoko
Okay.
are the top 3 sellers from 2020 and onward. So like this is a huge shonen property. Like it's big. I also have another gripe that I need to get off my chest about this show. Why do they always call Kafka Hibido Kafka? They say his full name all the time, and nobody else gets their full name. It's never like Ashiro Mina. It's never like Shinomio Kikaru. It's always just Hibido Kafka. Hibido
I
Kafka.
think I think it's respecting your elders.
Is
Like
that a
he's
thing?
just
Why would they just
I
call him
think
because like Kafka Sensei or something? I don't know. Maybe
I mean it rolls off the tongue.
You,
It's
you you
nice.
know it's like how often do we have a 32-year-old male lead with like a bunch of like subordinates that are younger? So maybe it is like an elder thing. I hated it. It's like I get that could be me and just not understanding the culture or the reference, but like but like at the same time they did also just call him Kafka. So it's like
I've never honestly I never noticed it. So I think it's a you thing.
all right, personal gripe, but I'm not gonna like deduct it points or anything, but it's just like Kimi no Kafka. It's like just say Kafka. Like, come on. Um, trying to think of the OP and the ED. So they were done by 2 English or one. Yeah, are they? Is One Republic English? I don't remember. Or he's British.
I think they're American.
Okay, so Youngblood did the OP. He's British. One Republic
Yeah.
did the ED. It reminded me. The OP reminded me of like the first Free Ren OP, where like I like the song, but it didn't really
Yeah.
match the show.
Right.
Because like the OP is like somebody saved my life, but like Ibino is the main character and he is the most powerful character in like the universe. So like the lyrics didn't make sense with the story. And then the ED was like focused around the computer tech whiz of the group,
Oh, Konomi.
Konomi. And
Yeah.
she's not really like a prominent character, so like having like an ED centered around her also didn't make any sense. But like I liked the songs, they just didn't match the themes of the show. And that's like a huge thing with me when I get like drawn in, where like I'll go back to Dungeon Meshi. The first OP of Dungeon Meshi, Sleepwalking Orchestra, has that high fantasy feel with like it feels like a bard is playing the OP. It's like, yes, that is a high fantasy theme. It gets me set up for this. When I have like this British punk rocker telling me to say somebody saved my life, it's like the main character doesn't need his life saved. He is perfectly capable of saving his own life along with everybody else's. So it's just one of those things where like I like it when OPs suck me in. I like it when EDs tell the story of something, and it's just like I just didn't get that with Kaiju number 8. I don't know if you have
Hmm.
any thoughts on those two.
Well, the OP I skipped a lot only because the visuals gave me the heebie-jeebies because I
Yeah.
don't like the the visuals. Anytime I see like little tiny dots and stuff, I get a little uncomfortable. So I skipped the OP a lot. The song's okay. The ED I loved only because I thought Konomi's really cute. But like
She is.
when I read the manga, I don't even remember her. Like she didn't. I don't even know if she's that significant in the manga. I thought she was really cute though. Like the visuals are very cute. I think the song was okay. Um, I guess the song about like nobody does it like you is like about her. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was cute. It was cute. It was cute, but it wasn't like a. I skipped the OP. I usually stuck around for the ED though because I thought the visuals were very cute. But
I wanted to
yeah,
see like a Kafka Ichikawa bromance ED or something like that, where like
like they're singing together.
or just like hanging out and having a beer together or something like that, because like it's like the Kohai Senpai thing, and they're like
Yeah.
they're all buddy buddy, and I think that would have been like really fun to like encapsulate that story of in the ED from the main story. But
Mhm.
it is what it is. It's not like I don't know. It's not gonna be like at any of my awards, but I just wanted to like get that out because it was when they announced like One Republic is doing the ED. I'm like, what the fuck? Like the ED for Kaiju number 8. They're like, yeah. I'm like, like that's pretty random. And then I've heard of Youngblood before, um, and I wasn't as like holy shit as I was with One Republic, since One Republic is like, I don't know, they have like 5 songs with over 1 billion views on YouTube. It's like, wow, okay. I don't know. It'd be like getting BTS to do something for anime. So, uh, Kaiju number 8 has the number 8 in its title, and that's what I'm giving it. I thought this was a very solid 8 out of 10 show. It's announced that it's getting a second season, and I'm looking forward to watching that as well. So, because what did you give this?
I also gave it an 8. Not because there's 8 in the it's a fair 8. It was fine.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep. I remember in the preview that we joking that we were gonna give it was Kaiju number 6.5, because I think that's kind of where I had the manga. And I'm glad I gave it an 8 because I think it
You were
deserves
close
it.
to saying Kaiju number 4 though. So,
Oh, I don't think it's that bad. No, it's not that bad. It can get generic at points, but it's not that bad. On to my personal anime of the season. Well, I guess new property of the season. Jellyfish can't swim in the night. If you didn't know, I started this podcast after watching the show A Place Further Than the Universe. It is one of like 2 media properties that has legit changed my life. And I got heavy A Place Further Than the Universe vibes with Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night. And that's why I resonated so much with this show, with characters who are striving to do something that they want to do when having the resistance of other people sort of telling them no or it's not good, and those lines of like stories. So with Kano being this former idol but still wanting to pursue music, I like the trajectory that they went with the reason why she kind of got kicked out of her group was because of like physical violence. And I feel like a lot of times you don't see that in terms of idol shows. So when they're the idol, usually they break up because it's like they find out that they have a boyfriend or they're smoking, which actually happens in the show that they have like the undercover, some like incel who spies on idol groups, and it's like catches somebody like smoking or drinking a beer, and it's like, oh, their entire career is canceled because that's idol culture in Japan. Kano, finding out that one of her bandmates or group mates was doing this and then retaliating with physical violence was like, oh, that is interesting. Like I like that in a character. And then Maharu with her art, where the jellyfish mural that she created when she was a child, or I guess elementary school ish area, middle school area, and her friends being like, this is dumb, and her losing her drive to do art when that's what she wanted to do. And sort of those two inspiring each other, with one with their music, the other with their art, and then combining that into creating Jelly with the 2 other girls. And when you have like those things where it's, I won't say it's like us against the world, but you definitely have some social pressure and some social things that are going on that are telling you to stop doing this, and they just continue to strive forward, and then having the breakthrough that was Jelly, and just creating everything that went along with it was just so well done. I'm gonna rant for a minute there, but Cosette, what were your thoughts on Jellyfish Can't Swim in the Night?
Oh man, I first episode in, I was like, this is gonna be a banger. Like just that first episode, I was like, oh, this is definitely gonna be an 8, 9, 10 sort of scenario. And this kind of started the Battle of the Bands this season because there's a lot of music shows this
Yes, there
season.
was.
But this one stuck out because it wasn't just a band; it was kind of like a multimedia virtual entity with Jelly. So I think that's kind of what stuck out as a bit different. And they had like visual elements and obviously had great production and stuff. And they were like on live, like Twitch or something. But I just thought that was such a cool concept. But really, what really stuck out to me was just like the line at the beginning of like, not the beginning, the end of the first episode where they talk about the jellyfish and how like on their own they don't shine, but when they're in groups, they like shine even more. And I think that was such a great concept for the whole show because that's basically what the girls were. On their own, they were having some like self-confidence issues and like they couldn't really find like their footing in the world. And as soon as they met each other and like show like their talent, like they all had different talents and stuff, and they were able to like step out of their comfort zones and like they were able to like give boost confidence for each other. And I thought that was just so beautiful to help each other like chase your dreams. And obviously there was drama as usually there is, but I just thought it was such a beautiful like friendship show, which is like my jam. Like found family and friendship is usually my shit. So it was such a beautiful show on like chasing your dreams. And I just, the music was fine. I think like compared to another show we'll probably talk about soon, this was probably second to me in my opinion, but I just loved the whole concept of the show, and the way that it ended was just so perfect. And I loved the all the characters. I think Mahiru was very meme worthy this season, with her like
Yes.
little dancey dance. That was so great. But I just loved all the characters. I think they all brought something to Jelly that was just so enjoyable.
Couldn't agree more. The other show that I sort of compared this to was Wonder Egg Priority, where the girls are, they all have like their individual traits and aspects that goes with their character, but like you said before, it's meant to be like taking their personality into this group and making it into something more than just what they can do by themselves. And that was like a big thing with like a place further than the universe as well, where they all have like their different aspirations for going to Antarctica, but it'd be a hard time getting to where they needed to go without each other. And that was like the same thing here with the technical prowess of Kiwi, the art of Mahiru, the actual vocals of Kano, and then Mei just sort of being like the support blanket for everything. I think like she was a little bit of like the encouragement that people needed because she was such a super diehard fan that like it's like people out there do care about what you do. I'm one of these people. Like, and sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes you just need one voice to really get you going. As somebody who does content, if I read a nice YouTube comment, I'm like, I want to do 1,000 episodes. Like that made my day. So like, I get it. Like I get that. I also want to give like a shout out in this show to episode 6 with Baba and just her drive of being an idol while being
Mm.
40 years old. This might be preposterous, but it's my favorite episode of the year so far. It really, really resonated with me with somebody who is getting up in age, I would say, and continuing to do what they're passionate about. And it's not about like the fame or whatever. Like, obviously, she wants to succeed and support her life by being an idol, and I guess later in the life or later in the series, being a mukbang YouTube creator, which is super fun as well. But it's like you could tell from her character that this is what she's passionate about, and that's not going to stop her. And I really resonated with her character. Like she's probably my favorite supporting character of the year too. Like everything about her, and just the episode, not only about her and her daughter that aired on Mother's Day, which was so well done, or like very close to Mother's Day. I just thought that was just like such a fitting episode to watch during that time. It was everything I wanted. I want to touch on something with people not liking how the ending was. They thought it was rushed. And I'm a little confused by that because I personally thought it was handled incredible. Like the whole
Yeah.
idea of, I think people didn't like how like her mom sort of like came around and was supportive of Kano when she was sort of out of the picture. But I'm like, it's still her mom. Like
Yeah.
she never like not loved her kid. Um, and just the end credit of the music video using her real name, and like sort of to me that was like acknowledging her mom acknowledging Kano as no, because she had her old persona in her idol group that wasn't her real name. This is her mom acknowledging who she is as a person, and I was like, holy shit, like that's so well done. That's such like it's not a line of dialogue, it's not some like long script or anything like that. It's just I did this video and here I'm putting your name on it. And you saw that Kano's reaction. She broke down. Like they had the whole concert and she was super happy and she was hanging out with the friends and then she saw her name and then that was it. It clicked with her and she's just like, I can't stop. Like this is everything that I was working for was for this. I was just like, this is perfect. This is so well done. This is what it's trying to execute on, and it did it. So I don't know if you had any issues, but I personally thought this ending was fantastic.
I agree. I really like the ending, and I think like with her mom, like I didn't expect some like lovey-dovey reunion. Her mom's the mom, like that's her personality. Like I wasn't expecting like a reunion or a dinner or anything. Like the way that Kano, like after her graduation, her mom was just sitting outside. Like I didn't expect a reunion. I was like, good for you, Kano, for just walking away. But I can tell like her mom probably just does care about her. I mean, she has an apartment with her sister for a reason. Like someone's obviously paying for that. But I think like that was such a nice ending, and I had no problems with it. I think the only problem I had was like I think we saw a glimpse of Kano's dad slightly,
Yeah.
and like we
That's what
never
I
got
thought it
to see
was,
him.
but I don't know if it was ever confirmed who it was. I think Jay said it was
Yeah.
somebody different, but
Okay. Yeah, it was hard
I
to tell.
forgot.
We saw glimpses of his like his face, but never his full face. So I thought maybe it was him because he's like the only other father figure we might have seen. I actually don't remember if we saw anyone's parents because I keep mixing this and Girls Band Cry a
Yeah,
lot.
now
So
I'd say we didn't see Kiwi's parents, we didn't see Maharu's parents, we didn't see May's parents. Yeah.
yeah, so
We saw
yeah,
Baba, that's about it.
she's the best parent, mom of the year.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I was fine with the ending. I didn't feel it was rushed. I didn't expect the performance to be anything like huge. I think it was very simple. It was like Kano singing. It had the amazing graphics, and then that full like was it like the projection of
Yep.
all Mahiru's like images was just so beautiful. Like I think that was amazing.
Mhm.
I have no issues with the ending at all.
Yep, couldn't agree more. The show is going to hold a special place in my heart. I loved it. Also shout out to Kiwi. I believe it was episode 10 or 11 with sort of like her gender identity. I thought that was handled really well. I liked how she's using like her VTuber persona to sort of express who she like kind of wants to be. And I thought that was just like really well done. And I saw that the Twitter people were just like, yeah, this was like really handled really well. They really liked how that was personified, and I would agree. So shout out to her. Also shout out to May in the episode where she's singing on the live stream and crying. That voice acting performance was so good. And it's like a combination of being super emotional and funny at the same time because she
Mhm.
is singing her heart out. She's just terrible at singing. So that was just like it's funny to see with like how great she is at piano and just terrible at singing. So
Yeah.
super fun. I'm giving this show a 10. I loved it. I absolutely adored this show. I thought the message it was trying to send was incredible. It was executed fantastically. The characters were so much fun. Like you said before, I don't think it's the best music, but I thought it was very, very good. And I just had a great time watching this week to week.
I also gave it a 10. I think
Woo!
it had such a great message. I think they nailed the concept very well. I love a concept. So they nailed it very well. The personalities are amazing. The music was actually really good. I just comparing it to another one, it's like second for me.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's definitely a top 10. I think like once they I assume they're going to dub it, so I would probably rewatch it in dub. I just think it's one of those shows that I will rewatch again and again throughout the next few years. So, yeah, big 10.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay,
魚
Moving on to another music anime that I think most people think it's better than. We had like there's a lot of conversation between Jellyfish and Girls Band Cry, of which show was better of the two, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about Girls Band Cry. First and foremost, gotta say straight up, how we were talking about OPs about like sucking us into this. This show sucked me in immediately with this OP. One of the best OPs of the year. It is easily the best OP of the season. It was so freaking good. Oh my god, I love this. Girls May Cry. I didn't like resonate as much to these characters as I did with Jellyfish, but I still think that they were like a really fun group coming together. Nina is, because of her, me and Miles had a conversation that we will be adding a best gremlin of the year category. She is pure goblin mode, pure gremlin mode. Yeah, the not understanding what middle fingers are at some point, and then the double pinkies just in your face. I'm trying to think. I'm not like I loved what this show did and what it was and like what it gave to me, but I can't talk like as passionately as I did with Jellyfish. So I'm gonna pass it to you and put you on the spot if you have anything you want to talk about for Girls Band Cry.
Well, first of all, I think it was a bit unfair that people were pitting each anime. I don't like pitting animes against each other. I think it's so lucky of us to have two amazing girl band animes this season. So that's like, I was thankful for it. I think it was so awesome. I remember when I saw the trailer, I was like, ooh, this is going to be a banger. I was a bit skeptical about the animation, but I was like, this is going to be great. And I was disappointed that no one picked it up.
Yep.
So
Still haven't picked it up.
Here's to hoping someone will. But it was just so much fun. And I agree, I can't speak to the symbolism of the messaging like Jellyfish, but I think from a music perspective, Girls Band Cry is probably one of the best girl band animes out there, I think, just from like a music perspective. But I think they had a one up because they already had a band that was existing already. So they already had like produced music already. Whereas like Jellyfish was probably like a new person singing. So they had a one up with the music. I think well, I'm not an expert on instruments, but I think like the animation of like the instrument playing, and then like what stuck out to me was Subaru's testing at the performance was like they didn't have to include that, but that was just so awesome.
Episode 12 was so good.
That was the best. Actually, that was the best episode.
I agree.
It was my favorite. But yeah, I can't speak too much about the show. Like it's very much like Jellyfish with the same messaging, where like a bunch of girls had like their own personal issues and like some self-confidence issues, and when they got together, obviously like they became a band. So they all had their own personal struggles, and when they come together, they got to step out of their comfort zones. Like Nina became a singer when she never thought she would be a singer. I think with Nina, I wasn't liking her at first, and I think it's because she's just like a typical teenager. She's a typical angsty teenager that has like she's very determined, she's very naive, she's very narrow focused at times, and I think I didn't like her for a bit. Then I was like, wait a minute, like this is typical teenager stuff. Like of course she's like this. Of course she's like this. So but I think she really carried the band because I think she was able to push them in ways that they needed to. So I think she's a great character. But yeah, there's not really much I can really talk about besides like the finale. I thought it didn't stuck as much as like the performance, but I think it ended where it should have.
I
because
agree.
they like aimed to like get signed. Like that was the whole point of it, was aiming to get signed. And when they got signed, they're like, oh, this probably isn't our vibe. It's not working out. So I think it ended where it should be. I just for some reason I was thinking, oh, there'd be like a big finale and they would win this battle of the bands. But then when I thought about it, I was like, oh no, like this is actually a suitable ending for this. And I hope there is a season 2 because I think they would do really well still. But yeah, it was just such a great surprise this season for sure.
Yeah, I think what was the factor for me of like not liking, or like I know you said you didn't want to pin them together, but why I like Jellyfish more than Girls Band Cry was I thought that each girl in Jellyfish sort of got the episodes that they needed to flesh out their characters to a point where I was satisfied with it. Somebody like Subaru and Girls Band Cry with like setting up with the expectations of being like an actress because her grandma was such like a big actress and she was like following sort of in her grandma's footsteps and helping her out. And I felt like that kind of went away later. Like that really wasn't ever touched on. Like I didn't feel like the grandma accidentally found out that she's in this rock band and she doesn't want to pursue acting and this is what she wants to do. Like I was looking for something along those lines with Subaru's character. I think Rupa and Tomo, since they came in later in the series, didn't get enough screen time to really flesh out their character. I think the two that really did get fleshed out, and the two I think that mattered the most were Momoko and Nina. And I thought that
Mhm.
they were very fleshed out, and I enjoyed them a lot. I like Nina with like the Japanese, I guess, expectations of like you're going to college, like that's what you're going to do after high school, and her sort of following what her parents want and her also sort of rebelling at the same time. And I like that aspect of Nina's character a lot. And her sort of figuring it out at the end of like, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. I really enjoyed that, but just like I didn't have the full connection of the 5 bandmates like I did with Jellyfish, and that's why I'm giving it a 9 and not a 10. But like this show was like so every episode felt like it was like 12 minutes. Like it was so much fun. Even the drama was like realistic and something that I could like dive into, and it didn't feel heavy enough for me to like pause or take a break or anything like that. It was great and it was handled fantastic. Episode 12, that performance is so good. Incredible. That's like I think Sora said like that was the best like music performance in anime history. I was like, okay, relax. And then I watched the episode. I'm like, that was pretty good. Like,
Pretty good.
I don't know if it's the best ever, but if I said top 5 in my like I don't think it's better than like God Knows from Haruhi, but like man, it's up there. It was fantastic. Like I really enjoyed Girls Gone Cry. For me, this is just like a really good show.
Mhm.
Like I give my 10 to something that I can like connect with or more along those lines. This is just to me just a really good, really solid show, and I'm giving it a 9.
Nice. In terms of best music performance, it still goes to Given for me.
Given's in
That's
my
like
top 5 too. Yeah,
that's my favorite one. I don't know what will beat that because that I watch it all the time and it makes me cry every time. It's so perfect. But anyways, yeah, I still really like the show. It's definitely a 9 for me because it's not as good as Jellyfish in my eyes, but I still really, really enjoyed it. I hope someone picks it up because it's
me
just
too.
such a good show and the music's so good and I really hope there's a second season because I think like they can go pretty far with this. And I did really like the characters and I wish we got to see more about Rupa because she's so fun.
I love
I really
Rupa.
she's best girl for me. She was just so fun. I mean, Subaru was also they're all best girl,
They're all
honestly, but
good. Yeah.
they're all good. Like, there's no one like unlikable. Even like Hina and Diamond Dust, when we see the reveal that like she was like the other student at school, and we saw the background of like why her and Nina had their like they weren't even fighting. They just had this like separation where
Yeah.
like Hina didn't want to get involved. But then we saw at the end, like I guess they kind of Nina kind of realized that oh, like Hina loves this song too, or something like that. I kind of forget how the ending went. But and anyways, I enjoyed it. It's a 9. I'd probably rewatch it again. I'd probably watch it dubbed too. So yeah.
Also, a rare instance where I loved seeing a snake in my media. I don't like snakes at all. The snake in the show was super fun.
That snake was that whole episode of just like taking care of the snake. It's just so funny.
It was
So
really good. Yeah, but Rupa shout out the nice beer. Big fan of Rupa. So
yeah.
that's Girls Band Cry.
魚
Moving on to some other girls who did maybe cry is Train to the End of the World. When it comes to this suspense and mystery in anime, I love not knowing what the next episode is going to be. And Train, I didn't know what the fuck it was going to be. It was nuts. Like, one episode they're growing mushrooms out of their butt. The next one they're fighting zombies. The next one they're playing shogi in a magical girl world. Like, the what this show gave me was what I could only assume what doing hallucinogens is like. It was just an
Mushroom.
mushrooms, LSD, I don't know. Like I haven't done any of those, but I'm assuming if I did, I had to compare it to an anime, it'd be this one. It was crazy, but I gotta say my absolute favorite part of or anything to do with the show was the dialogue. Where these girls felt like best friends. How they sort of as soon as somebody started stop talking, there wasn't like a pause. They just like the next person was ready to go. And I feel like that's like a sign of good friendship where like I know what you're going to say because I know you so well that I'm ready to go as soon as you're done. And sometimes they like cut each other off and just it felt real. And that's why I loved it. Like these girls were like legit friends and it was cool seeing them go on an adventure together. And we just choo-chooed every Monday. Cosette, what are your thoughts on Train to the End of the World?
It was fucking weird. It was so weird. It was like I just remember when the first episode dropped and everybody in the Discord. Join the Discord if you
Yo,
haven't.
sick plug.
But everyone, like, I think that day we were all just like talking about it, and then I guess it made other people want to watch it. So, but it was just such a weird show. We just didn't know where the train was going. It didn't derail, which is good. We knew where the like destination was, but like every show was just a fever dream.
Mm-hmm.
It was just we didn't know what was going to happen. Like we did have that map that the old guy who was awesome gave us, and he had like little doodles of like what was coming up, but like every time I referenced that screenshot I was like, I don't even know what that is besides like the mushroom. So it was such a weird show, and I know a lot of people love the show, and I was like okay with it. I was okay with it because I think like when a show gets too weird and crazy, it loses me personally. Because like the reason why I liked the first episode was the town with the animals. Like I was like, oh, this is my shit. A town with animals. This is my shit. And then they leave, and I was like, oh, I guess we're not going to see them again. But I really did love the friendship aspect. I think that was like the whole theme of the show. That's why the train was named Apogee. Like, it was a really great show. Weird, but I think the messaging was great. Shout out to Zenjiro, who was the comedic part of the show.
Yeah.
With his choo choo choo
Choo,
choo.
choo, choo, choo,
Um,
choo.
but yeah, I still find it was fun. It was a bit weird for me, but like it was still enjoyable. Like I didn't drop it for obvious reasons, but I still really liked it. It was just a little weird.
It was. I would even say a little weird. I would say a lot of weird. It was wild. But like to me, like going into like each Monday, not knowing what the next station was going to be, was like half the fun. Like not knowing what boss they're fighting this week, to me was just great because like the possibilities are endless with this. If you compare it to something like, I'm also go back to Delicious and Dungeon, we kind of know fantasy boss fights. Like maybe they'll fight a centaur, maybe they'll fight a griffin, maybe they'll fight an ogre. Like those are all mythological creatures. With this, it's like, okay, we're going to roll up into a city and then we're going to turn into magical girls and then we're going to fight on essentially a shogi board in a graveyard. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, what does that mean? And I thought like stuff like that to me is like, yes. Like my enjoyment factor for the show was off the charts. Are there flaws to the show? Absolutely. Like for sure. With the people that have their criticisms with the show, I get it. But my number one factor with shows with this is, did I enjoy the hell out of it? And the answer is yes. I had so much fun. The characters were great. They made me laugh. Shout out to Pochi, best doggo this season. Just, and I'm not talking about the butler. I'm talking about the dog. just everything that went with it. I also want to shout out the mangaka fight that they had in like episode 8 or 9 was so creative and so fun. Like that's going to be my best fight of the year. I just thought the creativity of that fight was next level. I loved it. I don't know if you have to dive too much into this, but I'm giving it a 9 just off of enjoyment alone. Like it was so much fun.
I gave it a 7. I enjoyed it, but like not that much.
Sure. I 100% get it. If people give this show a 4, I get it. If people give the show a 10, I get it. Like to each their own with this show. It's like it's weirdest. Did you ever watch Sunny Boy?
Yeah, I did. That was also weird, but I enjoyed that more than this one, I think.
Okay,
I think I gave it an 8 or 9. Yeah.
Okay. That one had like a much more like dark, or I'd say darker, but like a deeper message. I don't know if this one this one was more just like friendship. Like so like because people don't like Sunny Boy for how weird it is, but like I love Sunny Boy. So
I liked it. I think but this one was I don't know, man.
No,
it was
for
still
sure.
fun though.
For sure.
Yeah.
And speaking of I don't know, man.
Sakana!
I'm gonna bring this into Windbreaker, which was a show where when I started it, I was like, okay, this is cool, but I don't know, man. Like, is this really gonna retain my entertainment for 13 episodes? Spoiler alert, it did. This show was great. The cast is the show is carried by the cast, like 100%. But like in a good way, and I mean this by when shows like this, so it's about protecting the neighborhood and fights. It ain't that deep. There's no deeper message in Windbreaker. It's just kids beating the shit out of each other. And they don't try to make it more than that. How the big like tournament with the other school that they have, how are their problems resolved? By beating the shit out of each other. Like, that's it. And I'm like, perfect. You're not trying to have some deep message about, I don't know, something outside of fighting. It's just, I'm stronger than you and I'm gonna beat you up. And then sometimes when you get beat up, you get that clarity. And it's just like, oh, you know what? Maybe I ate all that. Maybe I ate that tough. And Windbreaker did that. I I thought the show was not only just like incredibly well choreographed, and an incredible cast of just characters in a wider range, but I like laughed my ass off at the show. The show was super funny as well. Sakura being like this tsundere male lead, getting all giddy by getting like his friends' phone numbers and like having a group chat and never experiencing that. It was so much fun. What are your thoughts on Windbreaker?
I was like you. I was like, I don't know if this is gonna be for me. I just I saw it as like, oh, delinquent show. It's probably a meathead show. They're probably just gonna be fighting. But like you said, the characters carry the show. Like the personalities of every single character are just so fun. And I think that's what made me enjoy the show. I really like Sakura. I think where it does get deep is where he's realizing that like to be the top dog, it's not just being like the strongest
Mm-hmm.
machoist man. It's also about like the camaraderie between like your team, gang, and just like building bonds with like people around you. So I think like I really like Sakura as like this vulnerable, like he's trying to be vulnerable. He's trying to learn how to open up with people, and I think like he's a fun main character. Will I continue watching the show? Maybe, but I just feel like the meatheadedness of it, I might stop at some point because I if it continued like the fight arc, if it was one episode more, I probably would have dropped it because I think it was a bit too long
I
for me
agree.
personally. It was a bit too long for me, but like I can see why it was that long, but it was just like if it was one episode longer, I probably would have been like, okay, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
But I really do love the characters. I do love Umamiya, like the Gojo looking character.
Yep.
He's a fun time. I saw a lot of people comparing this to Tokyo Revengers, and I think the only place where you can compare it to is the fact that they're delinquents. But
Yeah.
like, they're very different unless Sakura time travels or like someone
Ooh.
dies. I just feel like Windbreaker's more positive than Tokyo Revengers. But I do agree with the animation. I think the animation I think it caught all our eyes by the first episode. I think that the production is incredible. I think Cloverworks really nailed it.
Killed it.
But I think they're putting their money in this one, to be quite honest. Because I think it's very popular. I think when I went to Japan, Windbreaker was everywhere. I had no idea what it was. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Shout out to Kotoha, like the only female character. Uh, the one that looks like Nobara for me. I think she's best girl, even though she was in like what 3 episodes
Something
or
like
four
that.
episodes.
Yeah.
I liked her. She was fun. I wish there was more female characters, but I know that like this is a very male dominant show. No parents, no police.
Yeah,
So
what do they do
I
at
don't know.
school? Do they just
That's the
patrol the
thing. They
city?
went to school and they just talked about gardening or fighting, but
Yeah.
like I don't
Are
whatever.
they getting paid by the government to be like the watchdogs of their city? Like, what are they doing for like income or I guess education? Like, they just go to
Yeah.
school and it's like spray painted to oblivion, and it's like, what do you guys do here?
Yeah. But honestly, I think it's such a fun time. And I do like the premise that they're like protecting their little town. I think that's really cute. But yeah, it was fun.
Yep.
The personalities were fun. The opposite gang that we met were also a fun time. And then we got to meet 2 extra people or 3 extra people at the end. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was
Yeah.
fun.
We have like a hostage arc next time or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Windbreaker. like I said before, I'm a big fan of shows that don't try to hide what they are and they don't try to reinvent the wheel with it. I thought the choreography of the fights were next level. It was so well done on each individual fight was so well done. My favorite's probably Hayato, the guy who wears the eye patch, and his like
Mm,
I don't know what kind of martial arts it is, but it reminds me of like a Chinese kung fu movie. Um,
yeah.
kind of like how his movements are. I was a big fan of that. I'm giving the show an 8 just based off like animation and enjoyment and the cast.
Hmm. I gave it a 7.5 only because I did see myself getting a little bored. So I gave it a 7.5. It's not a 7. It's definitely between a 7 and an 8. So
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
no, right. We're gonna get to our little lovey-dovey side of things and do Grandma and Grandpa Turn Young Again. A show where I know episode 1 and people are just like, oh, I'm like, yo, you gotta relax. I guarantee you the show is not gonna go that route, and it didn't. This was I thoroughly enjoyed the show. It was so cute. It was so fun. Um, just how to I thought it was funny, just like how at heart they're still like the old people, but like they feel young again. So then they feel more like they have to do younger things. So like even like holding hands when walking down the street, they're like, should we do that? That's a little risque, don't you think? It's just like, oh, you guys are so cute. Like, stop it. And then like, going to the beach and the grandma was like afraid to like show off her like bathing suit and she's being modest and stuff like that. And like, it was just really cute. This show was so freaking cute and super fun and adorable. I love this show. What were your thoughts on Grandma and Grandpa?
It was so cute. Yeah, it was so cute. Like it was so charming and like heartwarming. And then it did get emotional at times, but I appreciated that because it kind of gave a nice well-roundedness to the
Yes.
show. But it was such like a nice, lovely depiction of just like a really well-established, loving couple. Like they love each other to like the end of the earth. And I thought that was such a beautiful story where we see like this elder because I don't think there's many elderly anime out there. So I thought it was just a beautiful story of like them obviously being a couple, but also them being parents and grandparents. And I think we saw that like beautiful story of love and of like wholesomeness with the family. But I think what's really special is that they got to live like a second life and a second chance at life because they lived in like a different era where obviously things are more strict in Japan. Like Japan's still like a bit more modest, but I think back then they were a lot more modest. And I think living in a different era where they got to like show a bit of PDA and just like expressing their love for each other, which is so cute. It was a nice balance of like comedy and romance. I did cry a few times because it
I did at the
reminded me of
end.
yeah, and it reminded me of like my personal grandparents, and it made me want to like go see my grandma. But yeah, I just think it's such a lovely, lovely show, and like I was also really confused why everyone was like confused about the first episode. Like I didn't see any red flags personally, um,
It's
but
anime.
yeah, it's anime, yeah, I was it's anime, and, like, it was, like, settled by, like, the 2nd episode,
Yeah.
like, it wasn't even, like, an issue, so, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I think the ending was kind of perfect, so it was basically just full circle,
Full circle.
with the granddaughter, but I thought that was so cute, so, yeah, I love slice of life romance shit, so this was my jam.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. I thought the ending was like great with earlier we saw the grandpa give up some of his time in order for grandma to live longer, and then that ended up being that they essentially passed away at the same time together with each other in like the place where like the apple orchard was like like their life. It was like where they made their money. It's how they like made money to raise their kids. Like it was like the source of their life, and it's the source of the golden apple of the second chance. So coming full circle, ending there, but also sort of the beginning of Mino and the shark teeth boy, and we see them at the end. Like they're married, they're taking over the apple orchard, and then they see the golden apple, and sort of like that whole full circle coming together was just it was great. If you're a romance fan, I think you should definitely check this out. This was I really enjoyed this. I give this an 8. Um, it was almost a 9, but yeah, I guess I would like to see a little bit more lovey. Like I don't know, I wish they like kissed or something like that. That would have been awesome to see. But I mean, they're like I know they're old at heart, and old people are modest and stuff like that. But like I would have wanted to kiss my wife if she looked like that. So 8 for me.
It was 8 for me as well. I think it was really enjoyable. Not my top favorite of the season, but it was just so fun to watch week by week. So yeah.
Right on. 8 for me, 7 for Cosette.
Sakana!
Moving on to our next
8.
romance. What? 8, sorry. No, it's 8. My bad. We both gave it an 8. There we go. I was looking at my next score for my next show, which is a condition called Love. You read the manga. I haven't. I dove into this knowing full well the controversy around Hananoi. So I knew this coming into it. I feel like if I didn't, I would have dropped this show. Because in the beginning, I thought Hananoi sucked. I thought he was a shit person. Obviously, we find out more why later, why he's the person that he is. But when I'm watching like romance and the setting, I guess I like it more fun than what this was showing off. Down the road, I got more accustomed to him and I started enjoying the show a little bit more. So I think that this is definitely, you gotta give it time to like settle for what it's trying to do. Also, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing where a main character is not necessarily the best person. So I will give credit to that, but it's just hard when a male or any lead is just, they just kind of suck. Because that you've read some of this manga, how'd you feel about the anime adaptation of it?
So with the manga, I did have a warning about how Hananoi is. I mean, shout out to Colleen because Colleen's the reason why I started reading it. But it's not my favorite shoujo, but I can see why the shoujo community loves it so much. Hotaru was the reason why I read the manga and I watched the anime because she's like the cutest little bean.
Yes.
She's basically me. I related to her a lot. But the thing with Hananoi is that like what I think when we have to tell people is that when you watch this, you have to know that Hananoi is going through shit and like just know that from the beginning, then like experience the show or the manga. Because like he's a young kid, like he's what, like maybe 16, 15. He's never experienced true love. He has his issue with his family. He's never had real friends. So you can actually see like why he is the way he is. And like the thing with the anime is that I think they made it a bit more obvious that there are signs. Because in the manga, it's not as obvious like what the signs were, like the picture, like the cutout pictures. I think in the anime they focus on it a lot in the anime,
Yep.
whereas in the manga it was like maybe 1 or 2 panels. So I think they did a really good job of like telling people like, hey, there's like a sign here. I the thing with this show is that like even though it's not my favorite romance, I think it's nice to have a romance anime where like there is some issues with both leads. I think there's Hotaru has some stuff she has got to deal with as well. But I feel like we don't see a lot of romance anime where like things aren't perfect right at the get-go. And they're actually trying to navigate a real relationship together for the first time. Like they've never both have never been in a real relationship, and I think that's a nice romance anime plot. To see like they both learn from each other. They both see like what are some boundaries they need to set for each other, some sacrifices, some priorities they have to do with each other, finish each other's sandwiches, that kind of deal. But I think it's such a sweet anime. And even though it's not my favorite and Hananoi reminds me of people in my past, I still think for an anime like this with romance, I think it's a very good one because I think a lot of romance anime like they fall in love with each other like right away, or they're a perfect couple right away, like, which is fine, but I think this is different and I really appreciate it. The anime was a little wonky. I think the art style, like I think Hotaru looked a little bug-eyed a few times. It reminds me of The Witch and the Beast last season a little bit, where the artwork did look a bit weird. But I think like it was fine. But yeah, that's all I really have to say about
For
it.
sure. I guess from like a personal standpoint for me, I do like the realness of like them trying to figure it out together, like the relationship kind of, and especially in Hanoi's case, like the issues that he's dealing with and sort of working on it, I would say a little bit through their relationship. I kind of wish I saw this in like an older sense. To me, this is like a little bit too mature of a theme for like 14 or 15-year-olds where yes, obviously they're going through it, but that type of theming for I'll just say like adolescent relationships doesn't hit as hard as if they were, say, in college or maybe like young adults. Like I like it more when that is the setting, but I do think that they handled it pretty well. Um, by the end of it, I was a fan of the show, not enough to like read the manga, but like if it ever got like a second season, it's not going to, but if it ever did, like um I think I would be inclined to be watching more of it to see where it progressed. But I think you said the best. Hotaru was why I came back every week. For as much as Hananoi sucked, Hotaru was the shining light and my savior for this show. She was super fun. I kind of like how she worked out things in her head, because she did seem a little like a romantic in a sense where like she didn't like she never really like found somebody hot. Even if like you weren't like going to date them, usually people are like, "Oh man, that person's attractive." She never was like, "Oh my god, that person is super hot." She just like kind of liked Hananoi for like he was that person. Like I don't know if aromantic is the right word for it, but like I like that vibe from her, and then sort of her coming into her own, being like, "No, this is the person that I really love." So, big fan of that. The side cast was like okay. The dude that like Hananoi got super jealous with was kind of annoying at points. Like he explained to it over and over and over again that like he's like, nah, like there's nothing going on. Like, and Hotaru was just like, or sorry, Hotaru. I don't know. He was just like so jealous like all the time. It's like it's a little much. I think at the end of the day, I'm giving this like a 7. I thought it was good. The animation, I saw the issues with it, but like it didn't really like pull me away from the show or anything like that. It was mostly just coming down to like me not liking Hananoi, and then me kind of liking Hananoi, and me really liking Hotaru. So I think I'm gonna land at a 7.
Yeah, it's definitely a 7 for me. I think it was fine. But I actually will probably continue the manga. It's not a manga that I like binge because Hananoi just drives me insane. So I usually read a few chapters every so often, but I probably will finish it. I think it's ending in a few months, so I probably should catch
Mm-hmm.
up. But yeah, it's fine. I know that some people might be upset by this rating, but it's a 7 for me.
Okay, that's not bad. I think I mean it's higher than its mouse score, so if
Yeah,
anything,
it's like a 6 or
six
something
point
or
seven two at the moment. So if anything, we're raising its score right now. So you should be thanking us. Next up is Bartender. This is a show that I saw a lot of people our age love. They're like, I'm not usually in the slice of life, but I like the adult cast and I like the making of cocktails. I couldn't get into it. I had a really hard time sort of like caring about the story itself, where they're trying to get the right bartender for Eden Hall, and they have their eyes set on the main character Ryu, and he's like, I'm not gonna join it, but like I'll be friends with you guys, and they like go on like different bar hopping things. But I guess what I was looking for in something like this is sort of following a character throughout this story while we get interweaved with all these other cast and characters. To me, that there was never like a main story. Like I couldn't connect to the main story itself, where we had an episode where they had like the national contest for cocktails, and there's all these reasons behind why they made their cocktails, but in the grand scheme of things, the main character didn't even participate in it. So it's like, what does this have to do with like the story? I think it's cool, like the background for them making the cocktails, but at the end of like Ryu not participating was kind of confusing to me. Like, are we not supposed to be following his journey from being a bartender at bar X into Eden Hall? And I didn't get that. And I just didn't like this as much as other people did. What were your thoughts on Bartender?
well, I think Eden Hall's where he actually works.
Or what's the last, what's the hotel
They
bar?
they they like they ended up naming it Eden Hall at the end. Like they took the nameplate and brought
Okay.
it to yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They whatever the bar in the hotel was called. The goal was for him to work
Hotel
at that
bar.
bar. Yeah. Yeah.
Hotel
Hotel bar.
Hotel bar. So I know there is. I don't know if this is like a complete remake of the first show or whatever, but I thought this was gonna be more like Restaurant to Another World, where like there's just a bartender who like makes drinks and connects with different people that visit, and then we get their backstory, and then the bartender like makes them a drink, then it changes their life, stuff like that, which I
Mhm.
think it's probably like what 30-40% of the show. So I enjoyed that part of it. I think like with the main character, he had no like arc because I feel like he already went through what he went through. Like his mentor kind of changed his life. We saw that in
Yep.
like the flashbacks. So I think if anything, he's kind of like the one helping other people, which with his like glass of God and giving cocktails that connect other people. So I saw that's probably what the story was. I did find the story about like the hotel boss like trying to push him and like was so eager to get him to the hotel bar was a little annoying, but I think like by the last episode you kind of see why. It's because he's trying to build this hotel in legacy of his son that passed away. So I was like, oh, like that makes sense. It was just like it was fine. It was a fine show, but like it wasn't anything that like I rave about. It was like a nice relaxing show to watch on a Wednesday because I feel like it was the only show on Wednesdays technically. So
Yeah. You
it
didn't
was
watch
fine.
Konosuba, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't watch Konosuba. Sorry, I don't
Nah.
watch.
I
I
get. I get
tried.
it. I get it. I
I tried
absolutely
watching
get it.
Konosuba. But yeah, it was fine. And like, if anything, I think a lot of us talked about it in the Discord, but we just wanted to drink after watching each
Exactly.
episode.
Yeah.
So, if anything, from like a gourmet perspective, it was
Mhm.
nice to watch. I think like the scenes where he's like chipping the ice, that was kind of cool. I did tear up in the episode with his mentor, like getting like that last hurrah. Like that was probably
That
my
was
favorite.
cool.
That was my favorite half episode because the other half was something different. But that was probably like my favorite half episode. Um, but yeah, and then there was like a I don't know if it was a romance or anything, but there was like a something going on with the granddaughter.
Yeah, a little bit for sure.
A little bit. Overall, I think it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah, I get this will be a weird comparison, but just follow along with me. So something like Violet Evergarden, where like there are all these mini arcs going on in the story, where like she goes to town Y, and then it's a different person, her story, but like Violet learns from that and sort of like adapts it to her character, and then it's all that, and it's like a compilation of all those things that she's learning throughout the process. I was kind of hoping that that was Ryu, where like even if he's just serving drinks to people and they each having their own story, it's sort of like applying to like his actual character. But I feel like from the start of episode 1 to episode 12, he was essentially the same person. Like I think he had like some realizations with like his mentor and stuff and like where he should go in the future. Like that was cool, but that happened in like the last 2 episodes. I guess I should say like episode 1 through 10. He's essentially the same person. And that's kind of where I fall off, where like I connect so much with the main character, where if I'm not getting that, then I fall off almost completely. The main example for this is Kill la Kill, where like I don't like Ryoko like at all. Like I like um Mako, the side character, so much more. And like when I get invested into like the side characters and not the main character, I fall off of the story. And Bartender was one for me where like Ryu is like the 7th best character in the show. It's just like when you're the main character and you're the 7th best character, you're getting a 6 for me. Like that's what you're getting. You're getting a 6. I thought the cocktails were cool and some of the storylines were good, but I just wish they were sewn together better.
Say really, like I did you give your rating?
I
I
give it a
forget.
6.
I would say 6.5. It's not a 6 level for me. I think I still really enjoyed it. It did have a bit of Iyashiki like calming kind of moments, and I still enjoyed it. So I would give it a 6.5.
Okay, right on.
Sakana!
All right, so we'll start diving into some sequels. So, first one that I've been waiting for a very long time, and I'm glad I did it the way I did because I definitely like let episodes build up and then binge through it all. Was Sound Euphonium season 3, the finale of the Sound Euphonium series. we got to see Kumiko and Reina and Trombone Boy be seniors and being the presidents and vice presidents of the concert band and sort of taking on the leadership role. No longer the Kohai, they are now the Senpais, and sort of really trying to get gold because they, even though they got gold at season 2, or was it the special or the movie, they didn't end up going to nationals. And so they have one last chance to go for nationals. This is it. And how are they going to do it? So I'm going to talk about the negatives first because I have so many more positives. Though I really didn't like the lack of performances in this season. So when they built up the tournament before, they had to win it essentially to go to nationals. They didn't really like play their performance at it. They put like a little snippet of it, and then it's like they won, and then they moved on to nationals. We're in like stuff like season 1 or in 2 with the performances with like the marching band where they're like out in the streets, like that. We got those performances, and then we actually got like the concert performance, and then the tournaments to go to nationals. We got all those performances. It was all lead up essentially for the last hurrah of the last episode. So I kind of wish we got some more actual music pieces from this season. And that's it. I love this season. Like, outside that, I thought how they handled, because like Kubiko as a character was always sort of, I think she was at the same time a leader, but also timid, and that kind of carried it over because even when she was like a first year, I thought like Sapphire and Hazuki did sort of lean on Kumiko as like their voice of the first years, but like she wasn't like the actual leader. She was still like kind of hesitant to speak up her voice, and it was sort of similar in this season. But then we did see her like kind of speak up to Taki Sensei about like the performance with the Soli with her and Mina, which then her character was, I thought, an incredible addition to the cast. Actually, the whole cast in season 3 was. The first years were so much fun, especially the girl who wears like the cat ears and the pins.
Yeah,
Their
yeah, yeah.
sister. Oh, she's so good, and I like the girl that wears the headband as well. She's just like, I'm trying to be fashionable. I'm wearing a headband. Like, she was super fun. And then also shout out to Kaori, the other, or not Kaori, Kanade, the other. I guess she's the second year Euphonium player who kind of gets left out every time when it comes to Euphonium-ish stuff. My issue with like the lack of performance all leading up to the final performance, I thought the final performance was just like, holy shit. The montage with the music and encapsulated everything from year 1 to year 3. I was like, this made up for everything. This made up for absolutely everything. It killed it. Absolutely killed it. Okay, I'm ranting. Cosette, your thoughts on Sound Euphonium?
Well, I gotta say, I'm glad I started the series. I think like I had surgery a few months ago, and I was like, I need to binge something while I'm recovering, and Sound Euphonium was the one. And so I'm glad I was able to like binge it and then watch it all, and then join everybody watching the final season. I think this was like a typical Euphonium season where like there's some drama, there's some new characters, there's some stuff going around, but like overall, it was like a typical Sound Euphonium season, and I still really enjoyed it. I think it was a very important season for Kumiko just because, like, now that she's president, she's taking everything she's learned in the last 3 years and, like, taking that as a leader. And, like, it was a very difficult year for her, and I felt really bad. The amount of, like, stuff she had to deal with. I was sad she didn't get the solo, but I think it was maybe a good decision because I think it would be too predictable if she got the solo and they got a gold. So I think, like, it was fine that she didn't get the solo, in my opinion, just because it made it less predictable. Because I did see light novel readers spoil stuff in the Crunchyroll comments where they're like, "Oh, like Kumiko's gonna win the solo," because apparently in the light novel she actually does get it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so they did change it a bit for the anime. But I still really enjoyed it. I was really curious who was gonna be the president and the vice president because I thought it was gonna be Reina and Kumiko, but then like Trombone Boy, because I always forget his name as well. It was nice that it was the three of them, and I really liked the way that they were communicating with each other because in past seasons we never got to see how past president and vice presidents were really like talking to each other. So I think like the notebook thing was really good. Thank you Crunchyroll for giving subtitles for what's written in the Notebook,
Looking at you,
unlike
dead,
other
dead
shows.
demons.
I like demons. We'll talk about that next review. But I just really enjoyed the season. I think Kanade was just a force to be reckoned with. She was so tenacious. She was so feisty. I didn't like her at first, but then I was like, no, like she's a feisty part of this troop that like I really like her. She's feisty. I think she brought some good tension to the show. I did like the girl with the buns, but I wanted to see more of her sister. I think her sister's really cool with the marimba.
Yep.
I wish we got to see her a bit more. And I'm really glad we got to see Asuka again, even if it was just one episode.
Yeah, I'm
It was
surprised she
just
didn't show up at the final performance with like the other girls.
no. I was really hoping she would be there, but I think it's fine. But like, I don't know if you want to talk about the ending yet, but like the ending, I wasn't as happy on. I still enjoyed it. Like I think it was predictable. Like they won, but I kind of wish the final episode was like an hour,
Agreed.
or like even just a special, just to see like we saw the full performance, but I wanted to see like how they celebrate at the end because this is what they've been fighting for. This is what we've been fighting
Hmm.
for them to win, and we didn't get to see that. And I would have loved to see like a reunion of seeing them in the future, besides Kumiko. But I still really enjoyed it. I still really enjoyed it, and I think like Kumiko becoming a teacher at the end was very, very like fitting, and I wasn't surprised about that too. So
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I think it fits perfectly with the character. Also, I said the girl's name wrong. Her name is Mayu. I thought her addition was fantastic. I really liked like with Mayu's character how she viewed things through her lens, which happened to be a camera. I thought that was like really
Hmm.
great, like symbolism or whatever that they had, and her winning I think makes so much more sense than Kumiko winning because that's like her entire like character where like she joined band in her last school with her friend. She ended up being so much better than her friend that her friend quit. And Mayu and Kumiko characters are about sort of like pushing each other, where it's Kumiko is pushing Mayu to be the best person that she can be, and like you should win this because you are better than me. And then the opposite is Kumiko having to step up her game because she's no longer the best euphonium in the school. Because I think coming into year 3, it's expected that she's the lead euphonium, and she's not anymore. Like we have a new transfer student, and she's better than you. So like you better step up if you want to make like get this solo. And then she ended up didn't, which I think is very fitting. Agreed with wanting the last episode to be a little bit longer. I think it's cool that we saw Kumiko, she's interested in music, but she's not. I don't think she feels like she's good enough. Also, when she goes to see the performance of Misere, where she asks Misere, like, "Can you see me at this school?" And Misere's like, "No," like,
That was tough. That was tough.
but like, it's she's being real,
Yeah.
like like being really good in high school doesn't mean you're like an elite, like you can just go to college. Like there are other people who are really good at this as well. So like if your heart is not 100% in it, you shouldn't go pursue it. Which Ray is like, I'm playing trumpet, that's all I'm going to do. Like her heart's in it. Kumiko is like but like she gets the middle ground where at the end she's the club advisor, and I'm like, this is like the perfect thing where like you care about music, but you're not like necessarily like good enough, or your heart's not in it enough to be like a professional or like advance your career into it. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, but I wish we saw Reina. I wish we saw Sapphire. I wish we saw these other girls as well as Kumiko. Just even like a snippet would have been great. But
Yeah.
Sound Euphonium is one of my like favorite series. I gave season 1 a 10. I gave season 2 a 10. I'm giving season 3 a 10. It's probably my least favorite of the 3, but nonetheless, I thought this was a very good way to end Sound Euphonium. I'm a big fan.
Um, Speaking about Mayu, I know that there were some comments about like people wanted to see more background of like why she is the way she is, but I think that what they revealed about her was enough for me
I
to
agree.
understand what she was thinking. I think she had some imposter syndrome, and I think her getting a solo was perfect because it kind of helped her realize that like no, this is like your destiny. But I really liked her addition, and I feel like what they revealed about her was just enough. I'm in a predicament. I don't know what to rate this right now because I The performance, I don't like it as much as when they did Liz and the Bluebird.
Yep.
I think in the movie, because that one was probably the best performance I've seen in Sound Euphonium. So I'm struggling because I'm like a 9.5 or a 10 because I really, really enjoyed the season, but like you, I didn't like it as much as the others. So I'm
I
like,
think you
is
like
this a
Kumiko. If your
9.5?
heart's not in a 10, it's a 9.5.
Yeah, I think it's 9 point. I'm gonna stick with it. Stick with my guns. I'll just say 9.5 for now. But I still really enjoyed it. I hope that maybe we'll just get like a fun OVA of just like
That would be great.
them in the future. Because who knows, right? So,
It would be great because
um,
they got like the four had like a pizza date if they're older and they get another pizza date and they just go eat pizza. I think that'd be great.
yeah.
And then Reina can confess to Taki Sensei and she can get
Oh my
rejected.
god. I was so worried that in the future we're gonna see like Reina and Taki together. And I was
No,
like, I don't know about
that
this.
would honestly might ruin some of it because I like the idea that Reina like loves the person who Taki is. I don't know if she necessarily loves Taki more than like who he resembles. There's
Yeah.
no chance Taki's like, yeah, of course I'll date one of my former students now that you're older. He just
Yeah.
doesn't seem
I
like
feel
that
like
guy.
she'll meet her own Taki in America, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
Okay, so a 10 for me, a 9.5 from Cosette. All right, it's time.
It's time.
Cosette's send this one out. I gotta give a
I'm
forewarning.
gonna get comfortable right now.
I'm gonna give a forewarning. If you like this show, I'm happy for you. Like whatever you like. There are aspects to the show that I think people really gravitate towards, and they really like it, and I get it. I am not one of those people. I am reviewing Jobless Reincarnation Season 2, Part 2. This show was ass. Absolute garbage. I'm convinced people who are watching this show did not actually watch this show or retain anything that this show is presenting. I wrote down some bullet points that I'm going to go over of why this show is bad. Here we go. First up, the whole story of Jobless is a redemption story. It's a second chance on life. How you correct the mistakes of your previous life into this. And Rudy, time after time after time, refuses to adapt anything that he learns to his actual life. He continues to make not mistakes, but like life altering events that change the course of his time and people around him. And he doesn't like it, like there are no consequences to anything that he does. He can do whatever he wants. And it just like, it doesn't matter because I'm just going to get to this next point. The story gaslights you into thinking that what he is doing is correct. What he's doing is not correct. If anything, it is the exact opposite of what you should be taking away from this show. Rudy is not a good main character in terms of like persona. And I think that's fine. But when you have a redemption story about changing who you were as a person, because time and time again, he has so many regrets of his former life. He's just doing the same thing in this life because he can shoot ice lances out of his fucking spear now. So like, it's cool that he can do it now because he's not like this fat incel loser anymore. He's more of like this grand wizard's the wrong word, but like he's this super mage now. So like, it's fine that what he does is like, I don't even know. Okay, next point. The show is incapable of taking itself seriously. So this season, we had two major events happen. One, his sisters came to live with him, and it was this reunion of them leaving and joining Rudy, and Rudy really taking on a more responsible role as a caretaker. So in the second episode of Norn's existence in this arc, where she's at school, they have this absolutely great touching reunion, only to be ruined by his hench women stealing all the underwear of all the girls at school. What is the point of that when you have this touching reunion? It removes all credibility of you trying to set a scene, set a mood of a reunion by just being its old pervy self, like the show always freaking does, and it drives me nuts. And then the second one, where Rudy's dad is killed in combat right in front of Rudy. So what is Rudy's response with this? Well, I better have sex with my sensei and marry her. Because why the fuck not? I know that's what I would do if I saw my dad get killed in battle. Duh. Like, that's the first thing I would do. The show is so ass it tried to take itself serious. Like, you just watch your father get killed by a boulder. He's literally, like, cut in half by a boulder. Like, it's not like he had this tragic, like, heroic... I mean, it was kind of heroic, but, like, he was chopped in half. It was just like... I personally, if I saw that, I would be traumatized. The last thing on my mind would be sex. I would have serious depression, and I don't know if I'd be able to sleep. And so Rudy just has sex with his teacher because his teacher sees Rudy at his lowest point, and her thought is, I'm going to have sex with Rudy out of nowhere. Which also, the whole thing of Roxy falling in love with Rudy out of nowhere was just so rushed and bad. It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, the whole like overcoming loss was just trash. But the biggest thing, maybe not the biggest thing, but losing all respect for Sylphie. Sylphie was this fantastic character. She saw the flaws in Rudy, and she was actually the one person to kind of change who he was. And Rudy also was getting glimpses of changing as a person. He's like, I'm not going to take, like, I found my wife. She's pregnant. I love her. But while I'm gone, I'm going to have sex with another woman and make her my wife. And then she comes back, and Sylphie's response was, oh, I guess boys will be boys. Paraphrasing, but it's sort of the sense where she says, like, I knew he was going to do this. And I'm like, if that's what you thought your husband was going to do, you need some self-respect for yourself. Your husband is garbage. If you know your husband is going to cheat on you, he probably shouldn't be your husband. And I threw any ounce of respect for this character out the window. She went from being this strong-willed, she would speak up for herself. She didn't take shit. She didn't need a protector. She was strong on her own to boys will be boys. And I was like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. What an absolute garbage dump of a character now. Like, she just had her child with her husband, and she's like, sure, have a second wife. Why do I care? I'm just like, just throw the, here, I'm just gonna throw my notebook. Just, what's the point? What's the point? What's the point of anything? What's the point of having any consequences in this series when Rudy just gets away with everything? The biggest thing with the baby and the marriage was Rudy's dad cheated on her mom. It caused massive turmoil in their family. Norn, even though she loved her father, hated that fact of him, like, throughout her whole life. Like, she never got over the fact that her dad cheated on her mom. And Rudy was the same way. Rudy respected Paul as like a warrior, but didn't respect him as much as of a father because of what he did. And he had the perfect opportunity to apply what Paul did and not apply it to his life when he had a chance at hooking up with a girl. And he's like, you know what? You know how I said all those things about how I resented Paul for cheating on my mom? Guess boys will be boys. It's like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. The one chance you could apply something with like your family dynamic and you do the exact same thing as your dad drove me crazy. I will say the fight in episode 11 was cool. This show sucks. I will no longer be watching any more of it. I'm convinced that people who watch this show, like I said before, aren't watching it or they just don't care. I wish more people were just honest and just be like, I don't care about all that stuff. Not, I didn't even mention the fact that he's still a pedophile, but like, besides the point, just say what you actually mean without trying to like dance around the polls. Like, this show's logic is terrible. I hate it. I'm giving it a 3 out of 10. It is the worst anime that I finished this season. I will no longer be watching. I feel like I missed something because I like blacked out there, but I just don't like this show. I can't stand it. I can't believe people unironically think this is good. Like, if I respect you as like a content creator or a reviewer or in like your anime tastes, and you think this show is unironically good, I legit am losing like not all credibility, but you're losing a lot of credibility from me, because I just can't imagine you watch this show and you see zero repercussions, you see zero logic applied, you see zero points of redemption in his character and think this is good. I can't stand it. 3 out of 10. I might lower it later, but right now I think 3 is the right answer. So, whew. Hopefully that wasn't too much, Cosette.
I'm glad I watched season 1, so I'm like, oh, I know who Roxy is.
Yeah. By the way, this is Roxy. I think in season 1 she's like 40 or 50. She sees this 8-year-old boy, and then 10 years later it's like, yeah, I'm gonna sleep with him now. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I guess they changed it from the light novel, but then I read what happened in the light novel. It ain't better. If anything, it might be worse. But like, in the anime, when Rudy tells one of the other elves that he's in the party with that like he slept with Roxy, and he's trying to figure out how he's going to tell Sylphie, her response is like, well, just make her wife. And like, that's my example of like the show gaslighting you into thinking that what Rudy is doing is okay because he's taking responsibility for his actions. You know what taking responsibility for your actions would be? I guess for me it would be Sylphie divorcing this motherfucker. Like you ain't shit. You ain't a man. Like you ain't nothing but a horny like incel boy. And it just drives me nuts. Oh my god. I think I covered it all. If I missed something, I'm sure I'll rant about it in Discord, but let's talk about something nice. I need to cool down. Sakana! Laid back camp. I love laid back camp. You know who doesn't cheat on my heart? Laid back camp. It only brings me joy. It will always be there for me. And you know what? Like the good husband I am to laid back camp, I will always be there for laid back camp. All right, I need to catch my breath. Cause your thoughts on laid back camp?
Oh my god, laid back camp is absolutely wonderful. I think the studios changed this season, so I did notice it a bit in the first episode, but after that I was like, you know what? It's still got the laid back camp loveliness that it always has. I feel like laid back camp is like a big advertisement for Japanese tourism, because every time there's an episode, I'm like, I need to go there. I don't camp. I'm not an outdoorsy person, and I want to go camping in Japan. It's just so wonderful. And I think the scenes this season, like, of like the artwork was stunning. Absolutely stunning. It was so beautiful. Just like looking at suspension bridges, which is kind of boring looking, but what they did in the anime was incredible. A train ride, incredible. Like it was just so much fun. And I think with this season, I really like the fact that like we got to see some of the girls do their own thing, like on their own, because I feel like in past season it was usually like Rin on her own, and then like the girls would be together on a camping trip. But this season we got to see like some of them do their own thing. So I really enjoyed that, and like Nadeshiko going on her own like trip, like commuting for a very long time. Yes. But I thought that was so cute, and like I love her so much, and she's exactly like me when I plan a trip. I look at like where I'm going and like what their like national or like what known dish they have in that region. But it was just so much fun. Like I have no complaints about this season. I thought it was so enjoyable. And the finale was cute, so that obviously means there's gonna be more. So, and the OP was like, as soon as like the OP started when episode 1 came out, I was like, this banger, like top 10. Yeah. Love it. It's so good.
Number 2 for me this season.
Yeah. Next to Girls Band Cry for sure. Yeah.
Funny you brought up that this is an advertisement for tourism, because guess who went to Hamamatsu just because of this show? This guy. Coming into this, I knew it was changing studios. The only thing that I was hoping for were the voice actors to stay the same and like the background art to be good. Like outside that, they could be stick figures, and I would love laid back camp. Like as long as we had those two things. And I think in terms of background, I think they actually improved on it. There was a couple scenes where like they used the real life background. There's like a
Mhm.
picture. There's one where like Rin's like overlooking like a cliff, and it's not anime. It's like the actual cliff she's looking over. I was like, that is so cool. I love it when anime does that. And if it brings like good comfy vibes and fun food adventures and that they do and cook and stuff like that, that this show is going to be perfect to me because that's all I'm looking for. And I got it. Yeah, did they look a little weird compared to the other season? Sure. But like I don't care. Like it doesn't matter as long as Nadeshko is still who she is as a person, and she is. And they brought that vibe. It's cool seeing Rin being more open to like group activities with this season, and then hopefully going forward we get more 5 people, 6 people camping trips. This season was just it was such a breath like relaxing every time I know that I'm watching Layback Camp. I'm gonna get really comfy in bed. I'm gonna watch this episode and I'm gonna have a solid 8 hours of sleep because that's what this show brings to me, and I loved it. Only con, lack of Chikua the dog. Not enough dog this season. We need more dog this season. Outside of that, it's Laid Back Camp. It's my number 17 anime of all time. I've rewatched seasons 1 and 2 like 5 times. I think I've watched the movie 3 times. I'll probably rewatch this on a rainy day. Like I love Laid Back Camp and everything that goes with it. Did you have any final thoughts on it?
Well, I think the one episode that stuck out to me is when they were retelling to Rin their camping trip or something like that, and then they just like, oh, just pretend Chico was here, even though he wasn't here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that episode was a lot of fun. So that we did get him a little.
We did.
Um,
Yes, yes, you are
yeah,
correct.
yeah, but I'm surprised you're not like talking about the Hamburg steak scene because that was
Well,
probably your
I
favorite
don't
scene
know if
all
people
season.
outside of the Discord know
Oh,
my
true.
love for Hamburg steak. So when I went to Japan, what was that? 2.5 months ago, I was on a mission to eat essentially as much Hamburg steak as possible. It's my favorite. I like gourmet meals, but I'm more of like a simple meal guy. Like you give me some meat, some veggies, and a beer, and like I'm a happy man. Like I that's all it takes. And they brought out the Hamburg steak this episode, and I could not lie, I was grinning from ear to ear. That is my absolute jam. And they brought out my favorite Japanese. I don't even know if it's Japanese cuisine, but I'm labeling it as my favorite Japanese cuisine, and it was it was everything I wanted and more.
Hmm. But I am excited for the next season because obviously they made their like club more official. So it'll be interesting to see who's going to be the president. Like, are we going to get a Rin? I don't know if Rin would like be comfortable doing it though, but
No, I don't think she would. And it's not going to be Nadeshko. There's no chance it's going to be Nadeshko. It'd probably be
so it'll be interesting.
Aoi or Saki.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. But I'm really excited to see that, and I assume that like the students we saw in later episodes are probably the ones that are joining the club.
Yes,
Uh,
I think that's
yeah,
pretty clear. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm excited for the next season because honestly I was confused where this season was actually going to go because like, with the movie they were obviously adults. So then I was like, oh, are they adults this season? But they're not. They're
That's
back in.
anime original, by the way. So
Okay,
that's
I did
like
not know that.
yes. That's
Okay.
completely anime original, which is shocking
Okay.
because it was so good.
It was so good. It was so good. But anyways, I love this season. I gave it, what did I give it? I think I gave it a 10 or something. I don't remember. It
Yeah.
was high up there.
Duh.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a 10
Yeah.
for me. I'm guessing we're gonna get Mono first, the other manga
Mm,
by Afro, and then we'll get season 4. Since Mono was announced a few months ago that it's getting an anime, so I'm gonna guess that we're gonna get that, and then we'll see Laid Back Camp maybe in like 2025 or 2026. I would guess is my guess. So yeah, that's Laid Back Camp, and now we're gonna leave some time to go over anything else we missed. So, did you want to talk about some of the other shows that you watched that you want to talk about?
sure. Um, I'll give a quick shout out to Astronaut. It's not the best show in the world. It's a very simple rom-com, but I think it's very out of this world. If you've watched Maison Ikkoku, it's kind of the same premise where there's a girl who's a manager and then a guy joins in and she's just like they have their adventures together, but there's a space element to this. There's a mecha element to
Oh
this.
shit!
Yeah, that kind of shocked all of us, but I think It's the side characters that definitely made the show for me. I think the most important storyline for me in this was with the father and son. And I don't know if you plan on watching this, but the
Nope.
son was like kind of exploring his like gender expression and he really
I
wanted
did
to wear
see that.
skirts. Yeah, and I think that was such a sweet moment, probably the best moment of the entire show. And his father was like uncomfortable about it, but he's only uncomfortable about it because he didn't want his son to get bullied. But eventually, like I think in the last episode, the son was like, "Well, I want to like be who I am, and like my friend already saw me wearing the skirt, so I might as well just continue doing it." And I thought that was such a great it was such a great representation. Like I think this season had a lot of great representation of like gender identity and stuff like that. So I'm giving a shout out to Astronaut. It's not the best show in the world. I think I gave it like a 6.57. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely a lot better than Galaxy Next Door, which I think a lot of us are scared about. But yeah, I liked it. Um, the next show is Tonori no Yokai-san, which I know you dropped it, but
I
you're
did drop
planning
it.
but you might watch it.
Maybe, but I'd lean more towards
Maybe.
no. I just
Okay.
it's like Bartender. I like the elements that were in it. I just couldn't vibe with it.
Yeah.
I couldn't get involved. I couldn't latch onto it.
Yeah, it's fair. I thought it was gonna be just like a nice slice of life with like mythical beings coexisting with humans. I think that was what got me the most. Like a lot of the slice of life moments were my favorite. Um, I think like the story of like humans and yokai living together and like intertwining yokai folklore into and giving them like more like human everyday storylines, like a couple like meeting and falling in love, and like two young kids falling in love. And there were some very deep moments as well. There were some LGBTQ representation as well, so I really enjoyed that. And then when the sci-fi stuff started to come in, I was like, that's a surprise. That was kind of weird, but I still enjoyed it. Did it make sense in the show? Sort of. But I think it's the slice of life stuff that I personally really liked. Um, the finale did feel a bit rushed. I think they tried to fit in where they can. I think there was a planning problem because they tried to fit a lot in one episode. I think like at one point I was about to cry and all of a sudden like the scene switched and then something else happened, so I didn't have time to cry. Um, but I still like it, and I think I might try to read it because I do like this kind of fantasy human coexisting story. Because I feel like for a lot of like fantasy beings living with humans, it's usually when they're living in like a fantasy world, but this is actually where they were living in like a rural town in Japan, and like they went to Tokyo, and I thought that was really interesting. So I gave it an 8. I still really enjoyed it. The sci-fi stuff was weird, but I think it kind of makes sense in the show. And the last one I'll give a shout out to is Tadaima Okari. It's kind of like the first Omegaverse anime. So I thought I'd give it a shout out because I think like it was done well. I think they did censor a few things, so I feel
Mhm.
like with the I forgot his name now, but when he was pregnant, they barely showed the pregnancy. So there was some censorship in this show, but I feel like they tried to do what they can. I think the logistics of Omegaverse kind of confused me because they were talking about like some discrimination stuff, and I didn't really understand it at the beginning, but then they slowly tried to explain like why omegas and alphas and stuff were like discriminating against each other. So I thought it was a really sweet show of just like really sweet couple show, just showing them like a really loving couple who love each other and like building their family together. And there was like a nice side couple kind of happening. So I still really enjoyed it. I thought it was really sweet. I also gave that one 8
And
as well.
Hikari was super cute.
Yeah. Oh my god. And voiced by the goat. So voiced by Anya herself. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then my next two favorites, I'll save it for the next review because the next two favorites, I really, really like them, but I won't talk about them because they are two cores. So I'll wait for the summer review.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
Right on. I'm gonna give my shouts. Konosuba season 3. Outside of the movie, I thought this was the best season to date. Low key had a lot of heart in it. I did not see that coming. I know Kazuma is a problematic MC, but I thought he was like actually kind of more mature this season, which was a little shocking. Yeah, it was very interesting to see Kazuma sort of shed a light. I don't know if it's going to last, but it was cool to see this season at least. So we'll see if we get season 4, if he's still that person or not. Also, want to give a shout out to Preston for giving us unnamed memory
Oh
updates
my god.
because that show I could not follow to save my fucking life, and he stepped up to the plate to give us weekly updates on what was happening in Unnamed Memory. And last but not least is Salad Bowl of Eccentrics, which I compared a lot to Hina Matsuri and is now my staple for a 7 out of 10 anime.
Mm.
Where it's essentially two stories. One story I really, really liked, and one story I thought was super mid. So it like ends up being a 7, but like if they just gave me like Sarah and Sosuke stuff all day, the show would be like a 9. Like I really liked them a lot. Did not like the Olivia stuff, like almost one bit. There's a few scenes where she was great, but I think for the most part, they just like reduced her to just huge titties. And I'm just like, you can do that once and I get it. If you do it every episode, like, I get it. She has huge tits. Like, we all understand that concept right now. So that was pushed in my face just a little bit too much. But I thought it was still like an enjoyable 7 for the most part. Also, Duke of Death, that wrapped up an incredible ending. Gotta give a shout out to Duke of Death. That's an 8 for me. And I also watched Tadaima. I thought that was really cute. I gave it a 7. And outside of that, the show that I will start watching that aired last season, that I'm going to watch this season, that I think it was one of the two, is The Raven Does Not Choose Its Master. I will be starting that so I can review it in the summer reviews. I think that is all. Thank you, Cosette, for joining me. Did you have any parting words to our adoring fans?
I think we had enough vents today because I could vent about Oscar in Unnamed Memory, but it's okay. I just hate him. So thank you, Preston, for the summary. Shout out to you.
Yes.
I still hate Oscar. He knew I hated Oscars. I think that just fueled the fire. So, but yeah, I'm really excited for the summer. I haven't even started any summer stuff. I literally just finished spring like Sunday. So, I'm really excited for summer. I'm excited that you're starting Yata Garasu because it's freaking amazing. It's probably my top 2 this season, actually.
Ooh.
Or spring season. Yeah, like it's up there. Like I think it might be even above Jellyfish for me. So
okay, high praise. Yes, I will be starting that either today or tomorrow. I'll be bringing it when I go on my trips. I'm going to Vegas and Austin. That's the show I will be bringing along with me to watch.
Nice. But yeah, it was a great season and it's a long review. Very
long. I did not expect it to be almost 2 hours, but here we are. And if you have made it this far, thank you. This was a long ass episode. If you want to support us, best way to do so, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you're watching or listening to us on. If you want to talk seasonal anime with us, you can join our Discord. Link is in the link tree below. Otherwise, next week we will be for Watch Club. What are we doing for Watch Club?
Link Click
season 2 for Watch Club. Otherwise, for non-Watch Clubs, thank you. For non-Watch Club stuff, it will be our summer first impressions. So we'll have 2 or 3 episodes wrapped up by the time of that recording. So we'll be seeing if Nokotan really is what I think it's going to be. So tune into that. Otherwise, Cosette, thanks again for joining me. And thank you again for everyone out there. We will see you next time. Peace.